What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. The Golden State Warriors on the road getting their first win of the season without Steph Curry in the lineup. Another defensive run. The Spurs had 68 points with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. They led by 10, 68-58. And the Spurs had 72 points with a little over 3 minutes left in the third quarter. So they held them to just 4 points over a 7-minute span. At that point, the Warriors were up 14, 86-72. So a 28-4 run in about 7 minutes of basketball. They logged a defensive rating of 78.3 in that quarter. On tape, just really good game plan discipline. Lots of lineups because it spans the middle of the third quarter. Multiple lineups for both teams were on the floor during that stretch, but the gist of it was any screening action that involved Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and Jonathan Kuminga was a switch. They were willing to switch Wiggins and Kuminga onto Victor Wembanyama in those screening actions, would shut those particular actions down. Obviously, they had some issues like Victor Wembanyama had a drop step dunk on Jonathan Kuminga in a switch where he just didn't really hold his ground well enough. But then when the guards were on the ball, so whether it was Podziemski or Gary Payton, they were just ducking under picks on Trey Jones, so they would live with pull-up threes on Trey Jones, and then they were chasing like crazy on Devin Vassell, and both guys were awesome in this stretch. Both Brandon Podziemski and Gary Payton just really controlled that perimeter defense stretch after the middle portion of the fourth quarter when the guards checked in. I clipped a specific possession of Gary Payton II, just showing him chasing around on Devin Vassell. And, you know, one of the things that Gary Payton does super well that's always impressed me is he's so incredibly athletic that he's capable of gambling or taking risks, jumping into passing lanes or reaching and getting off of balance, but still has the speed to recover. And in this specific play that I clipped that you'll find on my Twitter feed at _JasonLT, there's an example of Gary Payton lunging on one side of the screen and then chasing over the top and reaching in aggressively, and yet in both situations having the speed to recover. So when Devin Vassell got downhill and got to like a little pull-up 15-footer along the left baseline, he actually got a great contest on it just because he has the crazy speed to be able to recover after being aggressive. And that I think that sort of thing is super frustrating for offensive players because like you have these counter moves designed, like when a guy makes an aggressive move, I whip it behind my back this way and I have an angle, but it's like against the best athletes in the world, they can just recover. And it's like, shit, I did everything right on that possession and he's still right in my face, right? And then Trayce Jackson-Davis was just really a force around the rim defensively in the second half of this game. Actually had a possession in the fourth quarter where he blocked Trey Jones and Zach Collins back-to-back on the same possession. Weirdly enough, didn't get credited for a block in the box score, which I thought was really interesting. And then on the offensive end of the floor, Klay Thompson and Chris Paul did a really nice job running the offense. Klay was able to hit some jumpers against the Spurs in their drop coverage. And, you know, some of those classic, like come off of a dribble handoff, the guy's kind of in a trail position and just hits him with the hard, like right shoulder, step back moving to his left and knock it down, like that sort of thing. Chris has his usual Chris and Trayce Jackson-Davis pick and roll chemistry thing just on level 10 throughout this entire game. Hit him for lobs and finishes around there. Trayce had a ridiculous right-handed finish around Zach Collins where he jumped into him and then like scooped around with his offhand to finish. But just a ridiculous play. We haven't even got to it yet, but like at the end of the game when Victor Wembanyama reached to his right-hand side and he spun off of him, just one of the most ridiculous dunks you'll ever see as he like palmed it as best as he could and just threw it over the top of the rim into Victor Wembanyama. That's a highlight that Trayce will be looking at for the rest of his life, I'm sure, especially when Victor's running rough shot over the rest of the league in 5 years. I'm sure that'll be a fun one for him to look back at. But Chris had his mid-range jump shot going as well. He had 6 shots in the mid-range in this game, which obviously is such an important part of Chris being able to navigate in pick and roll situations. He has to be a threat to score in order to bring the screen defender up enough to open up those roll man opportunities. And that's what just kind of brings that two-man game to fruition, is like Chris's willingness and ability to knock down those mid-range jump shots, and then Trayce after the screen rolling hard to the rim and bringing that vertical spacing. Andrew Wiggins had 16 points on 8 shots. He had a massive 3 in the third quarter, kind of moving to his right He's really bringing confidence to the three-point stroke now that we haven't seen really since the playoffs in 2022, shooting 49% from three on 3.3 attempts per game in his last 18 games, averaging 14 points and shooting 54% from the field overall. So Andrew Wiggins, really encouraging stretch from him as of late. And then Jonathan Kuminga, 22 points, the usual, getting out in transition, hit a couple ISO jumpers, attacking in face-up situations. Big win for the Warriors. This was a tough one because, again, the Spurs have been sneaky tough to play for a while now. As the Warriors know very well, they just lost to him at home without Victor Wembanyama. And so adding Wemby on the road, really nice bounce back win, a very important one for them in the standings as well. Hey, Jason, first off, I love the show. Big LeBron fan here, and I know you are as well. I've said for years that I think personally the 2017 Cavs were better than the 2016 title team and that they just ran into the best team ever. I know the regular season wasn't great, but when you look at the playoffs, their run was insane. Curious if you agree and if you can provide some context as well. So I thought the 17 Cavs were obviously a much better offensive team than the 2016 team. LeBron James kind of went up a level as a scorer between that from 2016 into that 2017-2018 stretch. LeBron really went up a level in terms of his consistency in his jump shot and just his overall feel as a scorer. LeBron was really peaking in his offensive skill in that 2017-2018 range. Also, like they just had totally nailed down all their spacing concepts and the 1-2 punch of Kyrie and LeBron. They were really humming on all cylinders offensively, but it was one of their worst seasons of that era in terms of their overall focus and energy on the defensive end of the floor. And so here's the thing. I don't think it would have mattered under any circumstances with how good that 2017 Warriors team was. However, had Kevin Durant not gone to the Warriors, and 2017 was more or less a rematch of the Harrison Barnes Warriors versus the 2017 Cavs, I think it would have been a great series, but the Cavs would have been in some trouble in the sense that, like, even in that playoff run, they didn't really need to defend that much. And so I wonder if their defense in 2016, they were just much sharper defensively overall from start to finish in the season. And so I don't know what would have happened if the Cavs and Warriors rematched in 2017. I really wanted to see that, which is what kind of sucked about Kevin Durant going there, is it just kind of ruined what would have been a really fun rubber match. Because the 2017 Warriors are the best roster ever assembled, in my opinion. And the 2017 Warriors won 15 consecutive playoff games. Think about that. Like, I don't even know if we've had a team win 15 straight regular season games this year. And the Warriors literally won 15 straight playoff games in that 2017 run. So like they were just completely unbeatable. But I do think that 2017 Cavs is playing with a little bit of fire just with where they were at defensively at that point in the season. And it was really just effort and focus and like discipline type stuff. Do you feel like it is a lock for the 2024 Larry O'Brien Trophy to be hoisted up by a Western Conference or Eastern Conference team? I argue that the West has arguably been the more difficult conference, particularly this season with the amount of tanking / unorganized teams in the East. So I'm on the fence because I kind of look at the Clippers and the Bucks as, like, I put the Clippers slightly above the Bucks, but they've been struggling as of late. And then now the Suns are playing better. So I got to kind of factor them into that list a little bit. I would say that I give it like an 80% chance that either Denver or Boston wins. They feel like the clear, obvious choices. And I definitely lean closer towards Denver in that regard. So then the question becomes, out of that Phoenix, Clippers, Bucks group, who's more likely? And I still lean towards the West between those two teams versus that one. So like I'm gonna go with the Western Conference on that one.